Hey everyone. So, we already know how many people feel stuck in the limitations of conventional medicine, and that's exactly why I created Holistic Health with Melissa to take you on a journey from conventional to crunchy. Here, you'll get empowering wellness insights, practical tips, and faith centered strategies to help you feel your absolute best. In each episode, we'll dig into what true health and wellness really means. We'll dive into nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, and detox, all things so important to your health. We'll chat about raising kids with intention and living life of faith. So join me to reclaim your energy, embrace your healthiest life, and find joy and purpose along the way. Hey, ladies. Thank you for being here. I am so excited to dive into today's podcast. But first, I want to grab your full attention really quick because I want to talk about something really exciting that's coming up. If you have been feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, anxious, or you feel like you're just living in constant survival mode, then listen up because this is for you. I am hosting a brand new 3-day mind body healing workshop. It's unlike anything I've ever done before. This is for you if you're a woman who feels like you've tried everything. You've tried all the supplements, the diets, the therapy, the positive thinking, and you still feel stuck in your stress, stuck in your symptoms, and in a spiral of burnout and survival mode. Over the course of these 3 powerful days, I'm going to teach you the exact nervous system regulation techniques that helped me and hundreds of women like you finally get out of fight or flight, start healing from chronic stress and trauma, and reconnect with our true selves, reclaiming our energy, getting our confidence back, and finally living in alignment with God's calling. You'll learn how to calm your body in real time, release trapped emotions and patterns that are keeping you stuck, release those limiting beliefs that are ruminating in your head, reclaim your energy and your mental clarity, regulate your emotions instead of reacting, rebuild your confidence and self-trust, and start feeling safe in your body again. This isn't just about managing your symptoms, it's about transformation. It's about becoming the woman who no longer feels like she's barely holding it all together. It's about healing at the root of your symptoms so you can finally feel that peace, your power, and your purpose in your everyday life. It's practical, powerful, and it's exactly what your nervous system has been craving. So grab your spot now. The link is in the show notes. There's limited spots available. I cannot wait to walk through this with you. See you there. Because I think that that's one of the biggest misconceptions about like healthcare. Like in our society, we're kind of trained as patients, right? Like to go to the doctor for anything that happens. And like you go to your cardiologist for your heart, you go to your gastroenterologist for your gut, you go to your therapist for your mind, you go to like we have all these different doctors that are going to help us with these like one piece or the other, right? And they don't talk to each other and they don't work with each other. And I feel like that's one of the biggest like scams of our lifetime basically is like this idea that like the human body is actually like all of these like independent pieces that like
hmm
you just go to your cardiologist, it's fine, just go over here and like take these meds and like oh it doesn't affect anything else. It's not going to
Right.
affect your diabetes medication, it's not going to affect your mental health at all, it's just it's for your heart, you know. So welcome, everybody, to Holistic Health with Melissa. I am so excited that you are here today for another episode. We have a guest with us today, Jason Ott. He is a certified herbal nutrition consultant and integrative health practitioner with over 15 years of experience, helping people navigate chronic illness and reclaim their wellness. He is the founder of Empowered Prevention LLC and the author of No Cure, No Problem, where he introduces his signature lifestyle menu framework, a holistic model for healing the body by addressing the physical, emotional, and spiritual roots of illness. After being diagnosed with colitis and witnessing firsthand the limits of conventional care, Jason became passionate about helping others create sustainable, personalized wellness plans. Welcome, Jason. I am so excited that you are here, and I cannot wait to dive into this conversation. I'm sure it's going to be a good one.
Yes, that was a great intro. That was one of the best I think I've had before. So that teed me up for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I cannot wait to just dive into like all everything that you talk about and talk about the book and all of that. If it's okay, I'd love to kind of take it way back and start with like your journey. Like how did you wind up here? Tell us about your experience with conventional medicine and how you wound up doing this like so like super powerful work and writing this book and all of that.
yes, well, and I think honestly that's the best way to understand how my mind kind of got constructed this way because uh, in some ways it almost feels like this path was more divine, like it was chose me. I didn't know that, especially back when I was a kid, but now that I'm older, have kids, I can reflect. I feel like I'm in a better place. I feel like it did. My mom was actually identical twin, and she had a brain tumor when I was a kid. And I shared that story in detail in the book. The caveat to this is that her identical twin, she never got cancer like my mom did.
Mm,
And she still to this date has never had cancer and is still alive. My mom didn't die from cancer though. And this is where I really got into the field and what I do now because she beat it. This is back in the 90s where they would just blast the body with chemo, radiation. We needed to do a surgery. She had a massive tumor on her frontal lobe.
mm,
She was healed. She was back. She's trying to get back into work, and then her body just began breaking down. So, from bone mass to muscle mass to nervous system, coordination, balance, being able to grip things. And before you know it, she was on disability. So, I witnessed that through my childhood up into high school. And that's when I was like, hey, I want to help learn how to prevent this. If we couldn't find anyone around us to focus in on that area, and it took us about 8 or 9 years before we went to Mayo, and they basically said, there's nothing medical here. You need to figure out how to nourish her, build her up. This is not a medical thing that's going on. And that was a long time to wait to get her to that point where she was, disabled. So I went to school for that purpose. Then I found myself having colitis.
mm,
So it presented a whole nother slew of questions. So what I asked back to the doctor when this was getting revealed to me, and in my head it just didn't make sense. How did this happen to me? Because, a few years ago, I just don't get how all of a sudden my body's attacking itself. So that was my first question back to the doctor, which launched this whole thing was outside of my genetics, what I was born with, what are the other factors behind disease development, progression, regression, any of that? Well, he didn't have an answer at that time. And I explained my mom was an identical twin. I want to know why she had this happen and my aunt hasn't. That's when I went back to school for integrative nutrition, went back to school for herbalism, and shifted my career focus away from just the corrective exercise and wellness coaching world to 100% nutrition, mind, body, spirit, the big pillars that I feel are behind someone who either prevents illness or happens to get diagnosed and is lucky enough to get into full remission.
wow, that is like what a beautiful like purpose that you found in like your mother's illness. Like I'm so sorry that she went through all of that. And but like that gave you your purpose,
It
right? Like
did.
that's so incredible.
Yeah, it did. And it's like, well, and there was definitely years where I didn't have that mindset around it. So I was very negative. I was very like, why me?
Sure.
Um, and definitely had to go through that. I think that's the polarity you need to experience to find the other side too. But yes, I felt like I had to make a conscious decision. Am I going to let this define me a negative way, or am I going to try to step away and say, what's the reason, the bigger purpose behind this, so I can have a purpose instead of just wallowing.
Right. I feel like that's such an important piece to like that I don't even fully understand is like how come some people, because my story is filled with trauma. Like that's my work also was born out of my experience, right? Like I had
Gotcha.
so much trauma as a child, and all these things happened with, in my early adolescence. And then I became a nurse by the time I was like 23, 24, I became a nurse. And from there, and like just healing more and more and more, I at one point realized kind of the same thing. Like, am I going to let this define who I am in a negative way? Or am I going to take this and like take my mess and make it a message? Right. And like, how come some people, this is like so philosophical, and I don't usually like go this like philosophical, but um, like, and maybe I don't know if you even have an answer for this or
Yeah.
just your opinion, but like, how come some people are able to do that and some people aren't? Like, what do you think that you had that was able to take that experience and turn it into good?
I think I know about half of that answer. So I think that I'm still that's a major question that drives me right now because now it seems like I meet people and either I have them latch on, they really get into, okay, I got to do this for my physical body. I know mental health's a part of this. They dive into that. Of course, you got to have the spiritual side too. And they do that. And I'm like, okay, then the ones that don't. And I
Yeah.
want to have as many people get well as possible, but the people I remember more of are the ones that do not get well because that's the question that comes to mind. What's the switch? What flips it? So for me, it was a combination of things, but it did come down to a conscious decision that I was not going to do that. I felt like life was going to be hard either way. So I would at least want to give it my all. And at least I'm choosing my hard, is how I put it.
Yeah.
And with your trauma side of it is, there was a weird thing I told myself all throughout life too, is I want to be a different parent than maybe my father was to me. And so when I had my daughter at the time, she was a big reason why I made that conscious decision because I couldn't lie to myself. I didn't feel like I was living up to what I needed to be. I was sick. I had all this going on. And so I wanted her to have a better dad
Mm,
as she got older because she was so little at the time. So that really drove me many days when I didn't want to do any of the stuff. And I don't know if that's the key to it for people. They got to find that emotional pull and latch onto it. But it seems like it manifests differently for all of us, and it's a combination of multiple things.
yeah. Yeah, I love that you said choose your heart. I say that all the time, right? I'd love to hear, like, can you unpack that a little bit? Like, what does that mean to you, and what do you see in your own like patients as far as like
Yeah.
when that comes up?
Yeah. Well, I feel like the human condition itself of whether if you took actively being sick, you don't know what you're going to do, right? That's hard. You wake up every day, you got to live with whatever that is. If it's chronic pain, if it's a digestive condition, heart failure, you got to wake up with that on your mind, right? That day is already starting off hard. It makes me feel better if I do one or two things that I can help myself with. Maybe it won't fix everything, um, but I got a boost from that mentally, right? So for me, it was like, yeah, was it hard to start eating differently, starting to unpack trauma? That was very hard. Uh, yeah, it was. So is sitting with that the rest of my life and sinking. Like either way, there's suffering occurring, but there's something about when you decide to put yourself into something that is challenging, there's this big dopamine hit after the fact.
Hmm.
And there's a positive reward that comes after you did that hard that you volunteered for.
Hmm.
That doesn't happen when you don't do anything. So maybe I couldn't have predicted everything, but I could at least know that I'm going to feel better. I'm doing what I can. My family, everyone around me sees I'm doing what I can. And then I could let the rest go, control what I can control, let the rest go.
Yeah, which is like so so tricky, right? Like, and it's a practice. That's what I tell people all the time. It's like you have to build those muscles. Like just like going to the gym and deadlifting 200 pounds. Like you can't do that the first time you go to the gym.
I
You have to
agree.
build up to that.
I
And it's like
agree.
it's a never ending practice.
It really is. And so, like, with you saying that, I think there was a part of me that deep down inside knew when I was getting older, when am I going to really commit to that practice for myself? Because I was raised a Christian. My mom had a deep faith. I never heard this woman complain through our childhood, even though she was taking care of us as a single mom with cancer. So there was this example of what peace could be, even in
Mm,
crazy chaos. So I was
mm,
like, I know it's achievable, but I didn't want to bite that off. And it took me getting physically sick before I was like, this is why I have not invested in that practice. So to
mm.
second what you're saying, I mean, when I first tried to meditate and pray and like sit there, that was so uncomfortable. And it was like a once a week thing. Then it turned into a once a day thing. But that builds over time.
Yeah.
Um, and there's plenty of days I didn't want to do it, right? But you put yourself in that situation.
You choose your hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. I still I mean, like I consider myself like an experienced meditator, and I've been meditating almost daily for over 15 years, and it's
Nice.
still difficult for me sometimes,
Yeah.
like it doesn't, sometimes it's just hard and your mind is racing and it's hard to connect to that. It's interesting that you wound up with colitis too, and just like kind of knowing a little bit about like the history with your mom and what you said about like your dad and wanting to be a different dad and all of that is like colitis. Like I think some of the like emerging research suggests that colitis is actually like directly linked to emotional trauma, which is fascinating
Yes.
because it's so many people think it's just like a physical thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and agree. And I think the way I learned that was I did and tapped out my physical knowledge and I made all this progress, but there was a chunk left. And I'm like,
Mm,
What do I got to do different?" And then that was the part that I learned going in working with trauma therapists of like, well, what have you been holding on to mentally and emotionally that's still stuck in you? Holy cow, that blew everything wide open because there was this physical, mental, and emotional connection, that mind body connection, that literally was leading me to have more blood in my stool or less, better bowel movements or not. So there was definitely a layer. And once I took that head on, not fun at all. That's some stuff you got to do, but not fun. It went away. And I didn't change anything that I was doing as far as my herbal lifestyle, medical, any of that stuff. Um, and it's interesting you say that because when my mom finally passed, I was on the other side and actually in remission, and I had a flare up that week.
oh, wow.
I hadn't seen blood in my stool in 2 years. She passed. There's blood 2 days in a row. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then it's never happened again. But to second what you're saying, it made the emotional connection so real.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that like is I want to talk more about that because I think that that's one of the biggest misconceptions about like healthcare. Like in our society, we're kind of trained as patients, right? Like to go to the doctor for anything that happens. And like you go to your cardiologist for your heart, you go to your gastroenterologist for your gut, you go to your therapist for your mind, you go to like we have all these different doctors that are going to help us with these like one piece or the other, right? And they don't talk to each other and they don't work with each other. And I feel like that's one of the biggest like scams of our lifetime basically is like this idea that like the human body is actually like all of these like independent pieces that like
Hmm.
you just go to your cardiologist, it's fine, just go over here and like take these meds and like oh it doesn't affect anything else. It's not going to
Right.
affect your diabetes medication, it's not going to affect your mental health at all, it's just it's for your heart, so talk more about that and like how what you see in your own practice and what you believe. How is the mind and the body connected?
Well, so in my own practice, through my experience, like with other people, is like I said, I pay more attention to the people that don't make it to that goal of the health they want or remission, healing, whatever you want to call it. And there definitely is those who resist that area, whether there's something traumatic, whether they just don't even want to begin that process, they stop. Like there's a level to the progress that just stops. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that is because mentally you're making different decisions because of what you have unresolved or belief systems that don't serve you anymore, whatever it may be. But I see them hit a limit and a wall. And each person I wrote about in the book that went into remission, they hit all three of what I call the being triad: mind, body, spirit. They didn't do it all at once. They might have got a good place with the body, or they had to get their mind right first before they could take action on their physical body. Whatever the order is, they checked those boxes. And they had to for certain parts to get to that next level of healing. So I think it's something that I've witnessed. And then my best friend is a clinical psychologist. And so he was just outraged going through getting his master's degree because of how separated they made the brain from the body.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I can't believe this. Like, it's not separated because of knowing me and our conversations. He's like, how do I help someone if we're telling them that? I'm like, well, you get to be the guy that tells them it's not separated and how it can be connected. So then learning just the amount of healing or diseases or split personalities that the mind and emotional side can create through him going through school, it really opened me up to realize how powerful each part of our being triad is.
So good. I love that you like shifted that and empowered him and told him like, well, you get to be the guy. Like he's probably like, but I didn't ask for that. Like
Right.
how do you explain that and get your clients to understand that?
I think sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. That I feel like is the art, and that is why I put that in my title. The art of healing is
Yeah.
because there is no one way. I mean, if you're really approaching someone as an individual soul, an individual human body, you really got to do a good job listening to them and trying to connect with them, I think, because then you can pick up on what the path of least resistance is. That's the best way I've found so far anyway. Um, and I like to hear what they have to say. I do know a lot of things, but I'm not an expert of you. You lived with yourself your whole life. So I'm going to present ideas and then give you, hey, what do you think is best knowing yourself and what you've been through? And I don't know that that happens all the time in medicine or any profession. But I invite them to be part of this relationship, not just sit there and have me dictate things to them.
Yeah.
That's the best way I've found to try to make that connection.
I love that because that's really like empowering people, like we were talking about before we started recording, like empowering people to actually take control of their own health rather than just telling them what to do. And let's be real, like most of us like don't like to be told what to do. Like it, and you're actually building those sustainable habits when you're actually like a part of if it's like a come along with me, like let's do this together. And by you asking them like what do you think? Knowing yourself and knowing what you've been through, like, what do you think is the right answer? Like,
Hmm.
that is so powerful because I feel like that gives the patient the opportunity to really like own their own power. Like, what a great question. Um, I love that you do that.
Yeah, and ownership I think is huge too. So, I mean, if someone's already there, they tend to drive the ship and make progress, right? They're ready for the next step, but it's a scary thing to say I'm going to give it all I got, no matter what the outcome is.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, because not, yeah, it's scary to commit fully. You don't know how something is going to work out, and like it's easier. I talk a lot about like obviously I think the nervous system is the most important piece of the most important system in the body is the nervous system because like the brain and the spinal cord is your central nervous system. It's your computer, right? Like it tells everything what to do. Your nerves innervate every cell, tissue, and organ in the body and control everything. Your brain tells your heart when to beat and when to take a breath and how to move your arms and legs and all of that. If your computer's not working correctly, like how can anything else work correctly? But it's
Right?
really scary to like show up and choose something different when your nervous system is stuck in these patterns that we've chosen over and over and over again that have kept us safe, right?
Right.
To then choose something that's actually like unfamiliar and scary. So I say, like, I talk to people about like the unfamiliar heaven over the familiar hell.
I
Like,
like it.
we will choose a familiar hell 100 times out of 100 because that's our nervous system's job to keep us
Mm.
alive and keep us safe. Even if we know intellectually that it's not serving us, if we don't consciously make a decision like you did, we will choose that familiar hell over and over and over again. So yeah, just so, so, so important. I wish we could just like shout this from the rooftops.
Yes, yeah, and I second that on the nervous system because one thing, even though I'm a food and herb guy, is like I bring up the vagus nerve, cranial nerves, autonomic nervous system to every person I work with. And that is one segue that I try to take back to our mental and emotional health, but give them something physical before I go that way. But no, it's like it's so huge. If you don't get some level of regulation, you're not going to go very far.
Yeah. Yeah, I do believe obviously like nutrition is so powerful and I totally align with you on that, but I tell people a lot is like the number one thing you have to do is build safety back inside the body, and the only way you can do that is through nervous system regulation. If you're not regulated, if your nervous system isn't regulated, not only do you not care what you're eating, but like it doesn't really matter like what you're eating because you're so dysregulated, you can't even use that nutrition the way you're supposed to because you're such in a state of fight or flight or freeze or whatever. Like there's nuances with that, but
Yeah.
yeah, the nervous system is so, so important. Let's switch gears a little bit though and talk about nutrition and um what do you see like what would you say is the biggest misconception about nutrition?
Oh, oh man.
It's a big question.
That I would say recently, I would say that you can still find foods that are whole foods that are as clean as we can get that will help your body. Recently, there's been a lot of talk of like, there's nothing to eat in our food system. We're just going to be sick. It's kind of like a gloom and doom mindset. But no, there is. And I think that you have to navigate that appropriately, just like anything. Um, but I'd say the biggest misconception is most people do not do the very specific belief systems. That's a small percentage of people. So we get caught thinking, well, this guy's going to make me go all carnivore or all plant-based or whole 30 or whatever the belief system is. And I want to build that around their biology.
Mm,
So instead, I want to figure out what they need based on their toxic load, their deficiencies, their nervous system, their upbringing. How do you even look at food? I want to understand that component of it and then bring that into their life
mm,
because there's not a single person I've worked with that's got a result that has done the exact same thing. There's concepts, right? Hydration and sleep and make sure you got proper nutrient absorption and cellular. Got it. Concepts apply. But the specific food, that one food is not going to make or break your end result. It's going to be what you're going to consistently do. And if you're going to have the right foundational concepts for the body to actually be able to repair itself,
mm-hmm.
and you're in the right mindset. And to your point, I can't agree more with the fact you could have the most perfect diet, whatever that is, but if you're so dysregulated nervous system wise, you're not going to see the same result.
Yeah.
So I try to zoom out and say we need to stop getting so caught up on this one food is going to make or break me or this one thing and go see what are you doing collectively over and over and over and over again, right? So I think that I try to get away from that and more go, how do you consistently nourish your body? And what gaps do you have? So when they fill those gaps in, regardless if they want more animal product or no animal product or love protein powders or hate protein powders, if we're getting nutrition in, we're going to see some better results and then move into your emotional work. Like, don't sit here and hyper obsess on just the food, 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 food. Once you got that box checked, you got some emotional work to do.
Yeah, it really is a whole person perspective. Like
Mhm.
there's not one thing that's going to like make you healthy. Like it is a whole person perspective. It is so much the mind, so much the body, and so much the spirit. I mean, I,
Yeah.
I love that.
No, it is in like a very straightforward example. So this is how I kind of disarm people if it's a very specific belief system. My belief is whole real food, eat the cleanest meats you can find at the percentage you want. Obviously, if your health's going backwards because you got fatty liver or heart disease, we might have to edit some things. But then all the fruits, vegetables, herbs, nuts, seed, spices that you enjoy, let's build your foundational nutrition that way. But you can't tell me there's one way because there's people that come into the clinic that literally have been allergic, anaphylactic shock to almost all animal products. But they're still looking at me saying, I need this nourishment because I don't have this in my body. How do I do it? Then I have the complete flip-flop where a person can't have but maybe one fruit or vegetable for some reason. They have some crazy allergy. I still have to find a way to get them nourishment. So if you take those extremes, I ask someone, what would you do? Just tell this person, sorry, goodbye, nothing for you, just because this belief system's the only way to go around food. And I think that it's zooming out, having helped those people, that's where I got my belief around the consistency, the nourishment, and your next step.
Yeah, I think that nutrition is like one of the like it's obviously a foundation, but it's like one of the most confusing
Oh,
foundations for people because there's so much information. There is so this like doom and gloom kind of like culture that we have. Like we have these people who are like so doom and gloom about it, right? And then people who just like are totally disconnected and don't even understand what's going on or don't analyze their nutrition at all. But like there's so much conflicting information. You hear I'm confused and like I definitely don't know quite as much about nutrition as you do, but like I hear all the time like don't eat eggs. They're bad for you. Eat all the eggs you want. They're so good for you. You need eggs. Like don't eat, fruits and vegetables because they, all these things. Like it's just one all over the place.
it
There's
really
all kinds of different opinions about every different piece of the nutrition.
agree. And so I think there's whether you want to say two truths can exist at once or half truths, but it's like I'm gonna tell the football player to eat different than the diabetic and different than the perimenopausal woman. There's just gonna be differences, and those are based on where they're at in their life, right?
Yeah,
So
biochemically. Yeah.
yeah, so it's a if we don't put context to all the random one-liners and memes we see, it does get confusing. So I go right to context, like what's their why and what's your why? Okay, we need to look for this for you. Disregard such things and
Yeah,
move into that to find your answer.
totally. So good. Um, So for the listener who is like, gosh, like this resonates so much with me. I feel confused about nutrition. I feel like there's something more. I need to address my health. I'm ready to make the commitment. What would you say to that person who is like, I want to do something? What's like the top, one, two, however many recommendations that you say like do if they do this, this will improve their life.
Yes. So I'd say what are the things we can agree on? The belief systems that disagree on specifics, what do we agree on from a foundational perspective? So we need clean water. We need that water to have nourishment, minerals, and electrolytes. So do you drink enough water? What percentage of your diet is actually coming from whole, real foods? Whatever percentage of animal proteins you're having, and the same with fruits and veggies and the rest, is 90+% of what you put in your mouth an actual food? Because that needs to happen before specific um, belief or whatever you need for your biology.
Hmm.
So I go more fundamentally of like hydrate effectively, make sure it's actually getting into your cells, have whole real food, figure out from the foods that work in your body at that time, then do I need to supplement anything? But until you get that answer on what foods can do to nourish, don't jump right to supplements. So it's like I call it the fundamental four in my book. So it breath, hydration, nourishment, and then you got your sleep is like become awesome at those things because every person agrees on them.
Yeah.
Then get into your specific biology
I love
on
that.
your why.
I love that. That's like, yeah, every coach, wellness professional, like anybody that you talk to, like they're going to agree like the foundations are the foundations. It doesn't matter who you're talking to, like sleep, nourishment, breath, and what was the other one?
Sleep, nourishment, breath, hydration.
Hydration, duh. Hello. So powerful. Can you define, you said, is most of your diet whole real foods? Will you define what you mean by whole real foods? And then you said, is what you're putting in your mouth actual real food? Can you also define that? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yes. So coming from, I would define clean animal products as stuff that is not factory farmed and injected with antibiotics and hormones their whole life. So whatever you have access to, get the cleanest you can. So that would be a whole food to me. Even if it's coming in a package, at least it's not chemically added or created in a lab that way. Like it's not lab grown meat per se, right? So that for all animal products, eggs included. I would even put dairy in there if you do that. Then a fruit and vegetable, something that grows from the earth, from the ground, whether it's floating in water in a sea because it's a seaweed or grown from a tree. That came from nature, from earth, which, depending on the person's spiritual view, is what is meant for us based on who created us in this world. So those things are safe. They can be minimally processed. So like you could get a can of beans or frozen blueberries. Those are technically minimally processed. But when you look on the back, does it just say blueberries? Or if the can of beans, does it just say black bean and there's not like three other chemicals that you don't know what they are? So that's what I mean more so is like even if it's packaged and it's made by a company, are there things on there that aren't a real food that are some sort of chemical or something you don't even know what the heck it is
Yeah.
because you don't want to be getting your nourishment that way. And I would say the same for like protein. Like you can't just drink protein powders all day. You have to find a way to get some actual protein from a legit source.
Yeah, like
Uh,
clean sources of protein.
yeah, whether it's the meats or if you're more on the plant-based side, there's plenty. So I want to see that because it's the body's going to recognize it how it's supposed to, and it's we don't need all that extra chemical. So when I say real food, it's that the person can season it, sauce it, cook it, mix it, blend it, whatever you like, but make it come in from those ingredients and stuff like, let's say bread. How did you make that bread? Is it a sourdough with three ingredients or two ingredients? Does the bread actually have protein and fiber in it because they put the actual grain in there and they didn't strip it, or they put seeds in it or something like that? Those things I want to see actual nutrition in it and not a bunch of goose eggs on the label.
Yeah. Yeah, when you can't pronounce or don't know what something is, like maybe you don't want that in your body. I remember when I started like really evaluating what we were eating inside of our house, 7, 8 years ago. One of the things that I noticed was that I would buy packaged applesauce. I have two little boys. They're currently 5 and almost 10. So like, my oldest at the time was like 2, and I would buy packaged like cups of applesauce for like um generic like store brand,
Hmm.
applesauce. And in my head, I'm like, "Oh, it's applesauce. It's like apples." Just, and then one time I just happened to look at the back of it just because I was thinking about it while I was standing there in my pantry. And the first ingredient wasn't even apples. It was high fructose corn syrup, was the very first ingredient. And then it was water and then citric acid and then apples.
Which is
And I was like, it's like
ridiculous.
not even real apples. It's literally like processed sugar sludge. Like it's not even,
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
like it's not even a real thing. High fructose corn syrup is so it's not real.
exactly. And it's the first ingredient too. It's like
Yeah.
what's going on there? So I mean, on that, the actual food should have been the first ingredient, even if there's a little preservative tagging along at the end. But it's like, what is why? And so I think that happens a lot. And we do, because there was a point in time with my kids too, where once I opened my eyes to it, I'm like, wait, I thought that was just the fruit or just the veggie. Why's it got all this in it? Um, that I know it sounds like it should be a given. But I'm from Michigan, and Michigan had tons of water issues. Part of the reason why I had colitis was after the fact, once I dove into testing and found what type of bacteria was living in my intestines, I had heavy metals that were in the toxic range.
Mm,
So when I say clean water, that's what I mean. Water should help cleanse your body. I was building up all these metals for a couple decades because of just where I lived and I had no clue.
mm,
So, like, knowing those things really, really matter because we're in the age now where we're going to have to do something about the toxic load in our body, because it is adding another layer of inflammation.
yes.
So it's like there's got to be a push for those type of things.
That is like a whole podcast episode in and of itself. Like we could just talk about
Yeah,
toxic load for like a while. Yeah, so good. That's such a good point. And then I want to say, like going back to the food label thing, is like one thing that I always caveat with people is like if you've like ultra processed food, right? Like those that applesauce was like ultra processed because it's like they stripped the apples. There's no fiber in it because they're like, blending it and doing all the things to like extract what they wanted from it and getting rid of everything that they didn't want from it. They're pumping it full of high fructose corn syrup to make it super sugary and sweet and addictive, and then adding all the preservatives to make it shelf stable for 10,000 years. And then um selling it to us, and we're thinking like, oh, it's applesauce, like it's apple, it's good for us. So like that is clearly bad. And I think people know that, like when they look at that, and high fructose corn syrup is one of the more common ones. I think people are like, okay, maybe I don't really want this, but there's other ones too. But I will say, what I want to say is that you have to be careful with anything, I think, that comes in a package. Like minimally processed food is, most of what we get is minimally processed. Like it's hard to eat 100% whole real foods. If it grows in the ground or if it has a mother, you can eat it with that doesn't come in a package,
right.
of some sort. I will say that it's important to constantly, like, even if you find a brand that's minimally processed and you're like, oh, I use like Boulder Canyon potato chips as an example because I love Boulder Canyon potato chips. Overall, they have several different kinds. Overall, it's a great company. It's potatoes, avocado oil or olive oil and salt in a lot of their chips. In some of their chips, though, there's lots of other ingredients. And I think I'm kind of like a skeptic where I'm all like, no matter how many times I buy those chips, every single time I buy them, I'm going to look at the ingredients list because they don't have to tell you if suddenly they start adding additional things. So,
Correct.
like, make sure that you're continuously looking at because brands change, they are bought out, the ingredients change, like they're trying to change their formulation and make things cheaper or make things more shelf stable or whatever. And like they can change and you might not even be aware of it. Like the package might look identical. So always being mindful of like, what is it that I'm actually eating?
Agree with that and what it comes in, if they're conscious of that, because some brands are and some brands aren't, like if the packaging's leaking in it. Um, it it is, and I think I wish there was not the gray area in our marketing and labeling industry. I've actually done certifications on it because of manufacturing my own herbs. And though that was helpful, it also wasn't because I learned a lot of the loopholes.
Mm,
And so now it's like I know there can be trace amounts of certain things, or if it's under zero point 0.4 grams, they don't got to put it on the label legally. And so why do we allow that to
yeah.
happen? You know
Right.
what I mean? So it's just
Yeah.
like knowing that. And so like not to be like fear, it's like that's what drove me to more Whole Foods and to start
Yeah.
looking at things like this
Yeah.
because I don't want to end up messing up my body just because I was ignorant to something.
Right. Yeah, that's so important. There's so many loopholes like with the FDA and the way they label things, and it can have like 25% more sugar than it actually has, and it's like totally legal, which is just absolutely wild to me. But I could talk to you all day, and there's so many different like pieces of this that we could just like dissect, and you are a wealth of knowledge, and I'm so thankful that the world has you because we need more people that are like empowering people to be healthy. So if for the listener who's resonating and like tell us about the book, where they can get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach out?
The best, if you visit my website, empoweredprevention.com, that would be the best because then you'll go there, you can email, you can call, get the phone number, and then that has links and to all my social media, including getting the book. The book is available on just about any online book site, so Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and I can work with people outside of my state. So I'm in Omaha, Nebraska, but the cool part of how I wrote the book and how I try to practice is I am consulting with you. So I'm going to help you expand what is available to help you. And often, if I got someone in another state, I might have professionals I can shake their hand down the road in my city, but I help them locate them in their city because they're going to need that functional doctor or they're going to need insert the next practitioner. Um, and that can be across state lines because I want to help you do that. So everything can be virtual or in person. And that would be the best way to reach out. Give us a call or email.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason, for being here. This is such an important topic, and I love talking about
Hey
this. I'm so
everyone, thank
thankful
you
that you
so
came
much
on
for
and
tuning
shared
in
all of
to
this like
Holistic Health
amazing
with
wisdom.
Melissa.
And
It is such an
I
honor
feel
to
like I
have
have
you
to have you
here.
back
If you
sometime and
found
talk about
value in today's
one of the
episode, would you share it with
pleasure
a friend who
topics that
might
we
need it
didn't get to
too and
dive
leave
deep
us
enough
a
into.
review?
But
If
thank you
you
for being here.
have questions or
Yes,
topic
thank you for having me. And
suggestions,
I would
reach out
agree.
on social
I can feel
media
your
or visit
passion
our
too.
website,
And I always love when someone works in
holistichealthbymelissa.com.
healthcare, like as a
And take
nurse,
care.
and
I'll
then
catch you on the
you
next
can peel this
episode.
back because people listen to you because of your experience and your knowledge on both sides. So I love it, and I'm glad you're doing this too because people need to hear it.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you. I received that. Thank you so much. Well, thank you everyone for listening. If this episode resonated with you or you found value in it, please share it with a friend. Give us a comment or a review so we can share this with more people. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode.